Hello everyone, Mr. Cyan Smoover here with some exciting content today. As you may have seen on this channel, I've been spending some time making gameplay mods for Back 4 Blood. However, in my time modding, I've stumbled across some interesting things that may be hints to future DLCs for the game, as well as some extra lore hidden within the game's files. Today is going to be a bit of a deep dive into the game's files, but trust me, what I've found will blow you away. First off, we're going to head into the file that stores a list of all the maps in the game. Ordinarily, this wouldn't be anything interesting, but it turns out that this file still contains references to maps stripped from the final game, maps that are unplayable in-game and don't really exist in the game's files outside of just being referenced by name. I've gone through the entire list, and after removing all existing playable maps, as well as any map named Testing or Empty, I'm left with these 4 map names. Let's take a closer look at each of them. Before we start, note that the prefix map_pers indicates a persistent map, which to my knowledge means that the map is intended to be played online. The first map we see here is called Journal Mission. At first I didn't know what this was supposed to mean, but after some research I found that around the time Back 4 Blood was released, the dev team had posted on Twitter several journal entries relating to both the cleaners and their experiences, as well as the special written. My only guess as to what this map could be is a reference to these journals and some way to collect them in game. The second map on this list refers to something called Mission Island. This may be tied to the aforementioned journal mission. My theory is that this mission island would act as a hub for cleaners to select which journal mission they would like to go on. This would be separate from the main campaign. Imagine Tunnels of Terror, but you can enter whichever tunnel you choose directly from Fort Hope. This would be great for totem grinding, which leads me to believe the journal entry collection would be a similar mechanic. The third and fourth maps on this list are different from the previous two in that their file paths match exactly the format of maps currently in the game. Whereas the current maps are located at this location, these maps are located at the exact same location under the non-shipping folder, meaning the map itself didn't ship with the game. Fortunately, we can still see their names, which are Uptown and West Slope District. Feel free to speculate what these maps will play like, but in any case, I believe this indicates that we may be getting new campaign maps in the future. Before we move on to our next topic, I'd like to point out in this file, the map for Act 4 where you fight the Abomination is titled Titan Tunnels. This tells us that, internally, the developers refer to the Abomination as the Titan, and its home as its tunnels. This becomes interesting when we look at the Tunnels of Terror update. Immediately, the usage of the word tunnels is a tip-off, but that could be merely coincidence. What is most definitely not a coincidence is that if we look at the map names for the different Ridden hives, the inner layer is actually called Titan Egg Arena. Knowing that the Abomination is the Titan, that must mean that this massive glowing orange ball in the center of the room is an Abomination egg. Whether this egg was created by the same Abomination found in Act 4 is unclear, but I'm afraid to wonder what it will look like when it hatches. Getting to something more silly, the devs actually left behind some of their placeholder art for us to take a look at. First, we can see a character named Kev. Opening this file greets us with a familiar face. Looks like at some point in development, Jim's name actually used to be Kev. Interestingly enough, they have a picture of this old Jim stored in the files as well. Seems like he may have been the NPC responsible for starting a campaign run. Checking out the placeholders for unlockable skins, we can see... well, I guess it works. We also have some placeholders for the different difficulty artwork, which shows us that before we had our current difficulty names, they used to be called Normal, Hard, and Legendary. I wonder what that makes No Hope. Now looking at the cutscenes, we actually have 2 different types of cutscenes. Some are in-game cutscenes, while some are pre-rendered cutscenes. This is fairly obvious in-game, as the pre-rendered cutscenes are the skippable ones, while the in-game cutscenes are not. One unique thing about the in-game cutscenes is that they actually use the same exact map that you had just played on. That means that if you change the map in some way before playing the cutscene, you can do silly things like this.
We're so screwed.
As for the pre-rendered cutscenes, these are actually stored as raw MP4 files. However, don't think you can just replace the MP4 and get the result you want. The audio for the cutscene is stored separately from the video. That's why if we play the MP4s stored in the files, we hear this.
Walker? Chris? Schön euch zu sehen.
Chris?
Mom.
Lange nicht gesehen.
Ich habe schon gedacht, ihr taucht gar nicht mehr auf.
Keine Geschenke mehr, Ren. Wenn du Vorräte willst, musst du deine Differenzen mit Phillips überwinden.
Hey, ich spiele nicht mehr Soldat für ihn. Solltet ihr auch nicht. Komm schon, Chris.
Getting back into gameplay and future content, there's actually a huge dictionary that stores the names of all the cards in the game. Because the names are not exactly one-to-one, it was difficult for me to pick things out individually. For example, the card On Your Mark is actually named Starting Line. That being said, here are the newly added code names in the new update, and here are all the actual card names. You'll notice there are fewer code names than cards, and to see the reason for that, we actually have to look at the previous update. No cards were added publicly, but stored in the files, we had 3 more code names. That fills out our list of 12 new cards. So ultimately nothing we can learn at this point, but knowing that technically Weaponsmith, Power Strike, and Stealthy Passage have all existed in the game's files since February is something to keep in mind for when the next update comes out. Looking some more at the files that were added on the recent update, we have the Curses folder. My immediate inclination is to say that these curses are the negative effects applied to a player when opening a warp chest in the Ridden Hives. Currently, the game only applies trauma, but as has been confirmed by the devs, this is actually unintended, and in the future, they plan to have these chests give different effects. Well, here we can see the other planned effects. Apart from Add Trauma, which is our current guaranteed effect, we also have the effects Chronic, Reduce Max Health, Sluggish, and Sticky. Reduce Max Health is self-explanatory, but to see what the others do, we'll look at the files paired with them. For Chronic, we have Reduced Damage Resistance and Reduced Trauma Resistance. For Sluggish, we have Reduced Move Speed and Reduced Stamina. And for Sticky, we have Reduced Reload Speed and Reduced Swap Speed. Now we'll have 5 different possible effects that can be applied from the Warp Chest, which gives us much more randomness to play around, and I think will make opening chests a bit more fun to play with. We're starting to wind down on the video, but bear with me because this last discovery I think is the most exciting. Here's the full list of game modes included in the files. Most of these are clearly already implemented, but 2 things stick out to me. The first is that we have a co-op 8-peat game mode, which seems to imply that we would be able to play a full co-op run with 8 cleaners instead of 4. This would make sense since Turtle Rock servers are already equipped to handle 8 players in order to run a swarm game, so the jump from 4 to 8 players wouldn't be as much of a technical hurdle as it would be a balancing issue, but I do believe that this is the rumored new co-op game mode coming out in the future. Secondly, we have here 2 different PvP game modes. One, labeled Holdout, I believe to be the Swarm game mode, as that's the primary objective of the cleaners in Swarm. The second, however, is called PvP Classic. The word classic, in my opinion, refers to the 4v4 campaign game mode from Left 4 Dead 2, something fans have been asking for since Back 4 Blood was announced. Looking further at the code responsible for the matchmaking screen, we can see that there are a variety of options here. Again, most of these are already implemented, but again we see the co-op 8P map selection box, as well as a selection box to enable user maps. I'm hesitant to suggest that this means we'll be able to play through custom maps using Turtle Rock's online servers, but I'm hopeful. All in all, the content I've discovered gives me hope for the future of this game. If all of what I believe is true, then we'll at some point be getting a co-op 8-player mode, a campaign versus mode, 2 new campaign maps, and some playable user-made maps. I hope you enjoyed everything in this video, and look forward to more Back 4 Blood content in the future. Till then, I'll see you all next time.